What's your proposition on proof-of-work-based systems? Can you tell us about their benefits over the proof-of-stake systems?
They're simple, right? They're proven, so we know problematics of proof of work pretty well, I guess. All the attacks and problems and so on. That's why Ergo is on proof of work, right? To have some simple consensus which works well known. So proof of stake these days also can be well formalized and good, like Ouroboros family in Cardano and so on. But it's not so simple, and problematics is still not so clear. Right, and also it's about very different meaning of native cryptocurrency, right? I believe. In case of proof of work, it's more or less like digital gold, indeed, right? So you perform some work, then with some luck, you are getting Bitcoin or Ergo, right, in your wallet. In case of proof of stake, so it's more like shares in a decentralized corporation, right? So you are buying shares during an ICO, for example, right, which is a form of IPO, right, in this decentralized world. You are buying them on the second market. And then you can get interest, right, by staking, or maybe not. So interest can be good or not so, right? So it's different, right? And as we didn't have an ICO, then it was another reason to be on proof of work, right? In case of proof of stake, I believe you need for a huge ICO to have a fair distribution and thriving community. So it was a huge problem in NXT because its ICO was done our Bitcoin Talk forum, and there were very few participants there, right? And then distribution was always problematic. Right, so for successful proof of stake cryptocurrency, you need to do something like EOS did with advertisement on Times Square and so on. Right, so to have huge ICO, attracting tens of thousands, maybe, of participants. Right, even back in 2017. These days it can be about hundreds of thousands, maybe, right? And then it will be a fair distribution and a thriving community because the decentralized corporation will have a lot of shareholders, right? And proof of work is very different about that.
Yeah, miners are simply securing the chain, and they also need to sell the coins to new buyers to continue to work. So you think that provides better decentralization and proof of stake?
So it's hard to compare, right? In case of proof of stake, usually you have initial distribution, right, via ICO, and then second market, right, which is improving distribution, or maybe in opposite, making it worse, right? So it's hard to say. in general case. And in case of proof of work, you basically have kind of endless auction, right? So every 2 minutes we have auction. So miners are paying for entry tickets they're actually making bids, right, with electricity, right? They're spending on their hardware, also with hardware maintenance costs. They're paying bids, right? And then some lucky guys, well, actually, it's more like lottery maybe, right? So they're paying for tickets, so you are buying tickets proportional to maintenance cost of your hardware plus electricity, and then some lucky guy is getting a block proportionally to amount of tickets bought. But this system is open, right? So anyone now can participate with GPUs in mining, right? So in case of proof of stake, right, if it's already launched, then you need to find a counterparty, which is actually the case, right, practically. But theoretically, you need to find a seller, right? So proof of work is more open in this regard. So you don't need for any seller, right? You buy from the protocol.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But again, we are discussing some theoretical models, and in practice, proof of stake is usually also very okay, right, and decentralized.
Okay. So both has some advantages and disadvantages.
But there is another thing which is much more complex, which is about interaction between the consensus level and smart contracts on top of it. Right. So for proof of work, there are some known attacks like bribery attack, and for Autolycos version 1, we discovered its possibility to bypass non-outsourceability, which also works basically for most of practical non-outsourceable proof of work schemes proposed. Right. So even for proof of work, you have this possibility, right, to have attacks or some unexpected effects on consensus by using smart contracts, right? And I guess for proof of stake, there are much more possibilities, right? But we don't know much about them, so I guess we will have some papers published on that maybe 2 or 3 years after, mostly, right? So still it's in the very beginning. We are still witnessing beginning of understanding this problematics even, right? So for example, if you have DeFi on top of proof of stake, right, then you have such effects like you can choose whether to stake or to lend, for example, in DeFi, right? If you can earn more by lending, then you can do that, right, instead of staking, but then you have weaker security, right, of proof of stake consensus. And this is just the first thoughts, right, published 1 year ago, right, informally. And I guess, well, with DeFi space evolving, we will see much more results like that. So it could be very messy after all when you have proof of stake and DeFi on top of it. it's still very new problematics.
Yeah.
We are just starting to think about.
Yeah, it's now like mostly the rates are high in the staking, but in the future, when it drops, DeFi may get seem better for the stakers. So, like you said, this may weaken the system in the proof of stake model.
Right, and even more so, now it's popular to talk about cross-chaining and so on, and then interest rates are different for different proof of stake chains.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of staking on one platform, you can do some cross-chain to stake on another, right? By using tokens from the first platform, right? So then, yeah, it's very messy. It could be.
Yeah, yeah. So we are in the early phase, so we will see. So, but what about the energy consumption? I mean, about Bitcoin, it was a debate in the very recently. So, how are you seeing the Ergo, future of the Ergo in this sense? Do you think is it a big deal or not? How will it resolve? And so, or what is the problem, or is it a problem?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that there is a problem here even. Right. So there are some numbers that Bitcoin is consuming a lot of electricity, right? But before the Chinese ban, at least, so this was mostly about electricity, which
From coal.
Really? So I thought it was mostly about hydro, right, in southern China. And hydro, in not well accessible areas is mostly loss, right? So, actually, Bitcoin can be good, right, for transforming energy from hydro in inaccessible areas to some other form of energy, right? I don't know. It could be the case. I don't know
what did you mean by inaccessible drain?
I mean, some area where no population, right, but a lot of hydro energy, and in such areas, so hydro is cheap, right, which is attracting miners. So in southern China, during rain season, or in Tajikistan, for example, you can get crazy cheap electricity. Right, because it's not used by local industry, because there is no local industry in the first place, right? And not many people living around, you have a lot of hydropower, right, which is cheap. The same is true for Russia, where most of miners are located. So it's around Irkutsk, and a lot of electricity there, and not so much industry, right? And not many people living there, right? Then you can get crazy cheap electricity, right? Because there is excessive hydropower there. And I don't know what will be soon, because now miners are relocating from China, right? So hard to say what kind of distribution will we see in future, right? So yeah, maybe coal, bonds, oil, right, in Mongolia and Kazakhstan. Let's see, right? So currently things are transforming. So in regards with Ergo, so most of miners are using GPUs, right? So they're spread globally. And electricity is coming then from very different sources. And so people are spending electricity, right, to get ergs, but it gives security to the network, right? And I don't know. So a lot of electricity spent on more stupid things, right? Like there are GPU firms doing, for example, brute forcing of passwords, right, to crack into the websites. There are, for example, firms which are playing online games, right, to get artifacts to sell them on online marketplaces, and so on, so on. So it's a complex picture, and unfortunately, I haven't seen any comprehensive analysis of it, right? So all the arguments from both sides are very populist, actually, in nature, right? So in the first place, it would be good to understand the complete picture, right?
Yeah, there's not a comprehensive analysis like one side blockchain can power the decentralized financial system, and in the other way, banks are also using lots of electricity. And like you said, we use electricity for a lot of stupid things, for like I don't know, getting weapons in the games, such as so it's hard to compare which electricity is for the good case or which is for the bad case. So I think it's mostly about the green movement. Most of the topic was China using bad energy, like dirty energy from coal or oil. So, so that will be going better with recent bans, relocating, etc. So, like you said, miners will choose like hydropower or maybe solar powers in the future. So it's about technically a societal movement, not the blockchain's consumption. Can you say that?
So I guess solar is way too expensive, right? For mining.
Yeah.
So,
renewable energy is generally expensive.
Yeah, but hydro is also renewable, right?
Yeah.
And you actually can use hydro, which is not used now, right, to mine Bitcoin to buy then energy in another place, right? So then cryptocurrency actually can be used as kind of accumulator, right, of energy, right, so of value of energy, right, kind of, which can be used maybe for a greener world, but hard to say how currently, right? And in regards with green movement, so it's actually could be more productive to think how the DeFi can be useful for a greener world, right?
Yeah.
And actually, it would be exciting. So I would like to support initiatives in this space, but I don't know much about such initiatives. Actually, I mean, which to make sense, because a lot of proposals about how to make things greener actually do not make any sense, right? Historically and now. So there were a lot of proposals back in 20th century, which happily were not done because, well, from current understanding, they were damaging to the environment simply, right, and not making any sense. And yeah, now, well, many proposals on how to make the world greener also of the same kind. Yeah, also there is a lot of populism here, right? But yeah, if we can do the world greener, well, with some kind of DeFi or maybe community currencies and so on. So yeah, it would be great to participate in that.
Yeah. So now there are a lot of competitors rising now, such as Solana, Avalanche, Cosmos, with a great hype. So previously, blockchains were marketing themselves with high TPS and low TX fees. And now we see that that's an old proposition. And layer 2 solutions are working to solve the scalability problems on Ethereum, such as. So what will Ergo offer as opposed to current smart contract platforms? What is the uniqueness of Ergo?
All right, so many current solutions are just about cloning Ethereum, right? So doing EVM on top of different consensus protocol, right? So like Binance Smart Chain.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Avalanche, but they do have the same scalability problem, right? Cosmos is different, for example, as well as Polkadot, right? And yeah, so what do we have in mind is to publish what's called Ergo.meta, which is a cookbook on different off-chain and side-chain solutions for Ergo, right? So I believe in like 2 or 3 years, so Ergo can become kind of proof of work. Polkadot also, right, with proper side chaining and yeah, proof of work security for the main chain. So what's not quite possible in Bitcoin is possible in Ergo, and yeah, I will write more on that, and yeah, actually. It's the work in progress for a few months already, but yeah, with the recent explosion in community size and a lot of developers coming and so on, so it's hard to find time now to work on that. But yeah, at some point I will start publishing a draft, right? So I'm working on that with Scala Hub. Well, now he's also busy with helping to launch Ergo decks and so on. So yeah, hopefully maybe in next few months we will find time well to present something in regards with off-chain and side-chain solutions for Ergo. So in regards with off-chain, so Ergo will also be pretty unique. So there are some off-chain solutions known for Ethereum, but totally inefficient there, right? And so existing only on paper. So in Ergo, they are efficient in opposites, right? So well, I'll write more on that in coming months. So many things which are not efficient for Ethereum would be efficient on top of Ergo. So yeah, off-chain landscape would be different for Ergo. All right.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think actually not so much competitors for Ergo, because for proof of work coins there is stagnation currently, right? So what's miners, especially GPU miners, have after Ethereum leaving them is Ravencoin, right, which is just Bitcoin with tokens, right? Ergo much more. Green, pretty much dead. As well as other Mimblewimble coins. So unsurprisingly, the Mimblewimble technology was oversold, right, and so on. I think that's in regards with competition, the position of Ergo is quite unique, actually.
Yeah. Yes. Mostly I see that atomic swaps and identification algorithms running on UTXO models, proof of work models, but nothing much more like that can compete with Ergo.
Yep. Also, with totally different solution to smart contracts. So I saw one cryptocurrency with UTXO and also contracts in EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine. But that's actually, I believe, is not a good design choice. I've forgotten the name of the cryptocurrency even. But I'm pretty sure it's not a competitor even. All right.
Okay. So can you describe the current Ergo developer team? How many people are working? And how do you see the current development? Is it slow or fast? And are you looking for more developers? Which is fast.
Always looking, and for developers, for technical writers, there is a huge need to publish some specifications finally. New developers coming. So currently, it's the biggest problem to teach them, right, and to be sure that the current tooling is good enough, right? So currently it's improving fast. I mean, tooling for developers. And we got a lot of feedback during the first Ergo hack, the first hackathon for Ergo. A lot of the developers we have. And we will have another Ergo hackathon in September. And we always need for new developers, but currently also new developers are coming. And it's a bit mess to teach them and to get proper tooling to solve them. So that's the problem of growth, right? So that's a good problem to solve.
Yeah. Well, Ergo has good libraries. I'm not a developer, but as I can see from the people that Ergo is building good libraries to support the new developers. Right.
Yeah. So there is a lot of documentation also. So there is a problem that it's scattered around. But currently there is a good introduction website made by Mark Glasgow, ergonaut.space. Things are improving, and things are improving quickly, actually. But still a lot of work to do, and I'm pretty sure in next few years there will be a lot of work to do.
Yeah. That's the next question. You are working on a lot of things at the same time, aside from layer 1 development, like node development. There's also dApps such as Oracle Pools, AUSD protocol, stablecoin protocol, NFTs, zero knowledge vaults, like that can be built on Ergo, and we will have soon Ergo DEX. That's done test swaps. Isn't it difficult to build so many things at the same time, managing so many groups and developers? You are the only core developer and in Ergo, right? Maybe also Robert.
Actually, there is also Morphic and Scala Hub, and Ilya, who is now working on Ergo DEX. So, in regards with Ergo DEX, I'm not quite following the progress even, right? So everything is exploding.
That's on Ilya.
It's on Ilya and his team. So their team now is about 7 people, maybe, or like that. Right, so pretty big team is working on Ergo DEX only, right? So I'm managing whatever possible to manage, right? Without delegation, I'm trying to delegate as much as possible. So for Oracle pools and the stable coins, so it was done by Robert, right? The code base. So I helped with bootstrapping. So HUSD, Sigma USD bootstrapping was done by Dark Sides of Brr, right? Some anonymous member of community. And so on. So somehow I'm doing not so much things these days, and some not development issues are now on new developers like Prag Maxim. There is also Ergo funds I'm working on, so EIP and off-chain parts, and the off-chain part is built on top of Scanner, so I started some new projects for scanning the blockchain with custom rules, right, to build applications on top of the scanner. But now there are 2 developers continuing working on scanner, so I'm finishing Ergo funds functionality on top of it, and I will pass it to other developers, and then I will do something for the node development, and then I will do some community-oriented stuff like LED system, right? And also, finishing Ergo.meta writing. So I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm also delegating a lot of things these days.
Right.
That's leading to quick growth.
Yeah, that's a good sign of development. That's newcomer growing the community.
Yep.
Cool.